Sometimes it is better to just be the villain. Hello, everybody. I want to talk to you about something devious today, specifically Villainous Otome series. These are a series in which a person from our world dies or falls asleep or gets struck by lightning and wakes up inside of a book transmigrated as a different character, specifically the villainess of a story, usually a villainess of a romance story. Now, by the role of romance villainess, I do mean the other woman, the, hot, sexy lady who has a whole bunch of money, everybody loves her, she's rich, she's beautiful. The only thing she can't get, of course, is the male lead. Now, I've read a bunch of these stories as they have been popping off on a webtoon, and there's several manhwa all about villainous, someone becoming the villainous, someone fixing the villainous life, someone avoiding the villainous death, etc. And I want to talk about my top 5 villainous series. These I love to read, and I go back and reread them, even if they're not fully complete yet. So we're starting at 5, and that is Please Don't Come to the Villainous Stationery Store. A lot of times when someone is reincarnated as the villainess, or they are transmigrated into the villainous body, and that's when they fall asleep in their body or die in their body and wake up in the villainess, they try to go, oh, I'm not going to touch the main plot. If I just avoid the main plot, everything will be fine. But that wouldn't be much of a story, and so they do get involved with the main plot of the original story. Except for this one. This one fully commits to the bit. Please Don't Come to the Villainous Stationery Store follows our villainess as she leaves. She fully leaves. She leaves her noble house and she starts up a stationery store. Now, stationery stores are more common in Korea. They do sell stationery items like paper and whatnot, but they also sell like candy, toys, and things children would like. They're kind of like a general store, but they also sell some nice supplies. She starts up one for one of the most richest academies in the country, and with the help of a random sword she found, begins to live her life far removed from the main plot. And it is an interesting story as our main character is an interesting person, and we get to see the tribulations of her starting and maintaining a business. And yes, the main plot does creep in because it kind of has to, but it's not because she stayed in the same place or didn't try to get away. She did, and it's still coming after her, and that's interesting. The first season of this has completed, though the novel itself is complete. Number 4 is Not So Wicked Stepmom. Not So Wicked Stepmom follows our main character, who is a Korean children's fashion designer who dies and wakes up as the evil stepmother in Snow White. Unlike other villainous stories where they make up a story for our heroes to be reincarnated or transmigrated into, this one, it's a story we all know. We all know Snow White, so we don't have to go through the dribble of like, hey, this is Proud and Mortal Demon Way. By the way, there's a really cool guy named Lou Bingy. We can get thrown in without all that exposition, and it's really nice to have that. A few others have tried, mostly with Cinderella, but this one specifically takes Snow White, which is a fairy tale I don't like too much, and makes it interesting. First off, Snow White, or Blanche, which does mean white, is still a child, and so we see Abigail, the evil queen, use her fashion skills to design dresses because Blanche is too cute. The first chapter starts off with an excellent scene of Abigail looking at the mirror and going, "Who's the fairest of them all?" And the mirror going, "Oh, it's your stepdaughter, Blanche." And Abigail going, "You're right! Yay! She is my favorite. I love her." And it's so adorable and it's so heartfelt and warming to see her just give so much love and adoration to her stepchild in a familiar way. There are some darker themes to the story, but it's nothing too extreme. Warning for mentions of child abuse. Number 3 is how to win my husband over or how to get my husband on my side. This is a dark series. This is a lot darker than what I've mentioned before. This does have mentions of rape, sexual assault, and violence. As our main character is in an abusive household, and she was in her previous life in Korea, but now stuck in a pseudo-historical retelling story, which has very little basis in history, but does mention real-life historical characters as main characters. It's a little bit weird on that one. This series said Pope slander, by the way. She lived with an abusive family in her life in Korea, developed an eating disorder, died, and then was transmigrated into this novel as a villainess who is sexually abused by her family and develops an eating disorder. She decides the only way out is to make sure that her husband, the one she is forced to marry, falls in love with her and likes her enough to not send her back to her family, as she puts all of her hopes on this one man. And because of her trauma, it does make her a bit of an unreliable narrator at times, as I'm not quite sure, the hatred she says everybody has for her is real. It does make her a very sympathetic character, and watching her go and try to process her trauma in a new land, trying to win over a man who does not care for her at all, is, I want her to win. I want Ruby to win. I want her to get a solid win in. I feel bad for her. And I do like the story doesn't pair her with a complete jerk face. Her husband is a good guy, but he has his reasons to distrust her. And so does his family and servants, as the family that she's from is known to be a corrupt family. And so it's interesting to see how these elements play out. And on the topic of her eating disorder, I think it doesn't handle it with kid's gloves. It doesn't excuse the emotional damage that a disorder like that can bring on not only the person who is affected, but those around them. This is not unlike Not So Wicked Stepmother, How to Get My Husband on My Side is a much darker story that does deal with a lot of darker themes. And what I see from season 2 is that it's going to get darker, especially as some of her family members come back to try and get her. I still would recommend it. It's, at times, the emotions here are high. The story knows how to build its highs and lows and gets you attached and concerned about characters, even if you don't like them. And that's all I'm going to say, because if I say more, I'm going to spoil. And I don't want to do that. You should check it out, even unless you can't handle topics like sexual assault and eating disorders. Then I would skip this. Number 2. This is a newer series, but man, I do love the tone it sets from the beginning. This isn't being a wicked woman so much better. Our main character is a Korean college student seeking a degree in mathematics. She is a pushover though. Everybody just kind of uses her for their own means. They need, several $100s. Sure, she can give it to them. They need her to do their homework. Yeah, she can do it. They need her to stay up all night studying with them. Yeah, she can do it. And she does this because she's generally a nice person and has anxiety. So when she finds out right before she gets hit by a truck that they're just using her and they don't care for her, it is a devastating blow. And so when she wakes up as Deborah, a villainess in a romance novel she read, she decides that she's no longer gonna be a pushover, and that if Deborah is a wicked person, she might as well enjoy a life where she puts herself first. This story is the #TikTok #myvillain arc, and it is fun. Even when Deborah walks away from encounters and she has to grab the wall and go because she's so nervous about how confident she was, it's relatable to a lot of introverts and those with anxiety. I am some of those. Also, I think the magic system is cool. A lot of times in these series, you don't see a lot of the magic system. It's just magic happens, or it's something with sword auroras, and no series has really explained what that is. This one, the magic system is all done with math. So to cast magic, you have to think of a formula, and you have to factor in the distance, the energy needed, etc. Nerdy things. And the faster you can solve these formulas and figure out the results, the faster you can cast spells. The easier you can do it, the stronger your spells. And so the whole magic system is based off math. Unfortunately, their math isn't as advanced as ours, missing a few inventions that we got through the Islamic Golden Age. So Deborah, being a mathematics major, is able to do great discoveries in magic. And seeing her do something she loves brings passion to myself. I haven't gotten to the romance in this series yet, as I'm still slowly waiting for updates to trail in, but I am just enjoying Deborah as a character, and I love seeing how she puts people down, even if she hits them. An icon. Honorable mentions. I like these, but they weren't enough to hit my top 5. Again, I'm just limiting this list to someone is transmigrated into a novel or video game. So anything where they go back in time doesn't count. Beware the Villainess. Our main character, Melissa, is transported into a novel as Melissa, and she realizes all the romance options for the original protagonist are trash. They're an adulterer, a stalker, a kidnapper, and a misogynist. So she just makes it her goal to make sure the protagonist ends up with nobody. I love a woman. I do love women. And I love watching women support other women. Next honorable mention is Roxanne or Roxana. This is a much darker story in which our protagonist is transmigrated into a dark pornographic novel in which the original female lead was raped after her brother's murder and goes through a bunch of tribulations before she breaks and kills everybody who has ever hurt her and their families. Roxana, unfortunately, was reincarnated as the child of one of these people, and so she realizes the only way to protect herself is to save the older brother so that his death doesn't trigger the rest of the events in the story. And to do that, she has to fit in with the evil family, which means she has to become a vicious, wicked lady. And this is a lot of fun to watch Roxana murder people and scheme her way to victory. It's nice to see a protagonist who's a little bit darker and who is actually a villainess. Just a true villainess, she's not a good person, so it is fun to see. No, my number 1 will not be surprising. At no point will it be surprising. This is Villains Are Destined to Die, or All Villains Must Die. Depends on your translation, but the official English one is Villains Are Destined to Die. Our main character was in a neglectful home. Once she goes to college, she finally gets a chance. Our main character lives in modern-day Korea in a very neglectful but rich home, and when college comes, it gives her the chance to finally have her own freedom. Now in college, under an archaeology degree, she begins to play this strange dating game, and she unlocks a hard mode where you play as the villainess. Well, after losing several times and crying out how she pities how the villainess has such a harder life compared to the protagonist, she falls asleep and wakes up in Penelope, the villainous body. Unlike the other ones, which are based off books, this one's based on a video game and incorporates video game mechanics into the story beats. So she can't speak, she can only hit dialogue choices until she reaches a certain stage or gets enough XP. And Penelope herself, I can only describe as being dead, tired, and stubborn. She doesn't view any of the people around her as real people, seeing them only through the lens of a game, and she is determined to get an ending that she desires, and she will do anything to get it. She'll apologize, she'll grovel, she'll slap, she'll bite, she'll buy a slave, anything she needs to do. It makes her a strong woman to watch, but you can easily see the mistakes she's making along the way. Also, a lot of their male leads are attractive, but and Reynolds is slowly becoming best bro. You know, you'll find that out as you read. But Derek can die. I don't like that man. He can go. Bye. The other male leads that aren't Derek are compelling, and they all have their own reason on why they do X and Y. Finding out more about Penelope's backstory and the troubles the original Penelope went through creates a very compelling narrative. Watching the current Penelope go through scenario after scenario is also compelling and keeps the plot at a very fast and brisk pace. And I've read the novels, I'm slowly collecting the official English copies, and I do have to say it is one of my best. While Penelope isn't as, let's say, evil as Roxanne, she still fits a villainous role through her own selfish actions that again do cause that Penelope still fits into a villainous role, even though it's not the original Penelope, because her actions are still inherently selfish in every way, as she only views the people around her as video game characters, and part of her story arc is seeing others as human and overcoming her own trauma, and I really like that. I think it's a very interesting story. I don't like Derek though. I think Derek's a loser who can keep that bird in his room and not talk to Penelope ever again. Even the dad is better than him. I have strong feelings on this. But yes, that's my top 5 villainous otome or villainous isekai, whatever term you want to put on the subgenre of waking up as the villainous in a book or video game. I like to call it the Scum villain genre of romance, but that's just me. Comment below if you've read any of these. Comment if you see any you think I would like. I have read a lot. This was just my top 5. And don't forget to subscribe, ring the bell, you know. I also have a Ko-Fi. The link will be in the description if you want to support future videos. And have a great day!